Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. This is Rick Bushnell, and I think many of you have been on earlier sessions, so you know me. And I just want to welcome everybody. You're looking at a beautiful view of the marsh behind the foundation. We do have a webcam. It is live and it is available on the internet. It got in some iteration of revamping the website, it got dropped off. So we're going to put that back on. And so you'll be able to see it, which is really kind of fun when you couple it with something else, and that is our weather station. We have a complete weather station, gives you temperature, barometric pressure, wind speed and direction, and it has a little histogram with it. So you can see low pressure systems moving in. You can see the wind shift as the low pressure approaches in one thing or another. When you couple that with being able to look at the marsh, it's really kind of a great little science lesson in watching weather change. Now, the one problem is that on New Year's Eve, our weather station got hit by a bolt of lightning and we have to replace that. So I don't normally do the begging, but I'm going to be sending something out to enable people to make a contribution, if you would, to help us replace our weather station. We're talking into the $1,000 range, maybe even a little more. So we do need to raise some money. So I'll be sending something out and asking for a donation to help us put the weather station back on. So that's my my first thing. I'm going to start off begging. But I want to, as I said, welcome everybody. Want to again thank the foundation for hosting these. Daniela and Jenna. Daniela, of course, is the executive director. She enables everything, and Jenna makes it actually happen. So we appreciate all that. And we invite you all to participate in the many activities that will be going on throughout the summer at the foundation. That support helps the foundation, and then you have a good time as well. Camp is filling up, and so if you've got friends or relatives coming down, the summer camp for kids is fantastic, and I would suggest you look into that. And then there are many other activities that'll be going on throughout the summer. So as you know, we when we do these presentations, we're always talking about how everything is connected. And so we can talk about any one activity or any one thing that's going on in the bay or over the bay or next to the bay or on the marsh. And everything is connected and impacts each other. We've also been encouraging people to participate in various activities so they can learn something and then learn further by doing it. And today's session is going to go into that a little more deeply. Um, and so I'm going to briefly introduce our speaker today, Sammy Adamczyk, and she's with the Barnegat Bay Partnership. And I noticed, Sammy, in your resume, you mentioned that you started off volunteering. When did you start volunteering at the partnership?
Yes, I did. In 2016, it was after I graduated from undergrad. I was volunteering with the BBP 1 or 2 days a week on their juvenile eel survey, and then a little bit later when the summer started on their juvenile fish and nectar seining project. Um, and then I went on to work full-time somewhere else, get my grad degree, and then came back as a part-time technician to the BBP in 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. It was an interesting time.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so I don't really have to do a whole lot more introduction. I think that's helped us understand. And that's I kind of so you started off like in 2016, so that's almost 10 years ago, and then went through your undergrad and then your undergrad, which is marine biology, if I remember, and
Mhm.
then your grad degree is in environmental studies,
It's in natural resource management.
natural
So I
resource.
kind of took a step back and went a lot broader than just marine biology.
Well, so that just sets up perfectly for the kinds of conversations we have. I feel very fortunate to have you with us today. And so I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to take my screen down. We'll put your screen up and we'll start to listen. As we've said in the past, we we invite comments, questions, one thing or another. Might be best to put them in the chat session first so that Darlene can take a look at them, and then we'll have time at the end to answer some questions. So let me take my screen down and we'll put Sammie's up, and away we'll go.
Alrighty. Let's see if I can get my presentation. Where are we at?
Looks good.
Alrighty. Everybody can see that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Rick, so much for the introduction. Thank you guys for having me here. Community science is something that's so important to the BBP. Very happy to be here and kind of spread the word about this project. I have a couple other projects with the BBP that I will also touch on briefly. We're really excited to get the word out to you guys and hear your thoughts on what you're interested in and what the BBP can do for the community. So I will be focusing on our Paddle for the Edge project, which is using community science data to assess shorelines. One shoreline actually being that of the foundation that you just saw in the live cam, which I will touch on at the end of the presentation. So kind of funny connection. So a little bit about me. I am currently the wetland and the watershed coordinator at the Barnegat Bay Partnership. That means that I work on lots of different wetland projects as well as watershed projects. Then I have a couple photos of the different things that we've been working on. So for wetlands, I work with the New Jersey Tidal Wetlands Monitoring Network to do surveys on accretion as well as vegetation surveys on marshes within the Barnegat Bay. I work on Paddle for the Edge, again, collecting shoreline data. And then I have the opportunity to work on some watershed projects as well. I've been assisting with the development of the watershed management plans. So that would be identifying areas of pollution and how we can implement different projects and such to reduce pollution and increase the water quality in the bay. And then I work on the road stream crossing project, which is where we look at areas where the streams cross under the road via a culvert, a bridge, and kind of assess the health of those dynamic edge habitats as well. So I do just want to touch on a little bit about the Barnegat Bay Partnership and really harp on the idea that we are a partnership. I'm working at the program office, but we have a lot of different partners that are federal, state, municipal, academic, all kinds of people that we collaborate with to achieve these goals for the Barnegat Bay. So we are a national estuary program, which means that we are one of 28 different estuaries in the United States that was deemed in need of protection due to its national significance. So we're very honored to be recognized as one of such a small group, only 28 in the country. And so we are committed to identifying priority corrective actions as well as timelines in addressing these various sources of pollution to restore and maintain chemical, physical, biological properties of the bay and its watershed. Again, we work with our partners to develop an ecosystem-based management approach. And we do have 4 core values, kind of these priority areas that I'll talk about in a moment in our conservation management plan that we really want to focus on to better the estuary. And then lastly, one of our goals is education. Another reason that I'm here today, we're really dedicated to improving the coordination among partner organizations to maintain this two-way interaction. We work with stakeholders, various audiences, community members to make sure that we're all on the same page with addressing these concerns for the bay. And as I go, I hope that you'll notice that you'll hear the word coordination, collaboration a lot, because again, the point of being a partnership is to bring in all of these voices together and make sure that everybody is being heard and that we have an understanding of each other. Makes it a lot easier to accomplish the goals that we have. So these are our 4 core priorities that you'll see in our CCMP, which is on our website, which I will link in the end of this presentation. So we focus a lot on water resources. We kind of lump water quality and water supply together a lot. So this is just to improve water quality by reducing water quality degradation. We want swimmable, fishable, drinkable water, as well as supporting aquatic life. And then we want to make sure that there is enough water to support all of these things and that the flow conditions are appropriate for what we need. Then we also prioritize living resources, and this is both habitats and species resources to ensure healthy and sustainable natural communities. We look at plants and animals as well as the habitats as a whole. And then lastly, we prioritize land use. So this is, again, that word collaborative regional approaches to responsible land use planning, open space preservation, and make sure that everyone is working together so that we have what we need to support these various other priorities. So back to that living resources category, that is mostly where I do most of my work. Again, in the wetlands, they are quite an important resource. Wetlands are the transitional habitat between the bay and the ocean, as well as the inland watershed. And these transitional habitats are very important in terms of the ecosystem services that they provide to us. So lots of benefits that are both intrinsic, meaning that they have value simply because they exist, as well as extrinsic value because they provide lots of resources to us that we can use. And so we want to make sure that we are protecting these resources that they just give, and give. They're quite an interesting dynamic habitat. And so some of the things that wetlands do for us, one would be storm protection services. So I think this is quite a staggering statistic that they provide $5 million per square kilometer in storm protection services. So that means if our wetlands weren't there and a bad storm hit, we would have to pay $5 million per square kilometer in infrastructure and other types of restoration areas to just our urbanized development. They also contribute to carbon sequestration. So they are a very large carbon sink, especially in these coastal urban areas where we are producing a lot more carbon dioxide. It's very important to have these wetlands around to kind of soak up all of that carbon dioxide for us. They also act as habitat, obviously, for wildlife due to the combination of the dynamic soil, vegetation, and water. There's lots of different properties about these wetland habitats that are excellent for the habitat for various species. And then, as I said, wetlands are often very urbanized. And so with that comes lots of recreation. So that would be fishing, birding, any kind of activities that people partake in for fun, as well as sometimes it is their people's source of living. So we want to make sure that we're protecting that as well. However, as much as wetlands give, we often take. And so this is an example of the historical loss that wetlands are experiencing. This example in particular is Mordecai Island on the south end of LBI. And so in the image, you can see where that red spot is. That's an area that is currently experiencing up to a meter loss per year of land. So all of those funky colors are showing where the land used to be as of 1977. You can see it's quite a different shape than it is currently. And so it's really staggering to see that we're experiencing that much wetlands loss per year in some areas. So a couple different reasons why we're losing the wetlands. One being, again, we are quite an urbanized area. Most coastal areas are quite urbanized. And so with that comes a lot of development, which also brings in bulkheading. People who live on the coast want to make sure that they're protecting their properties against erosion, so they bulkhead. And that results in about 45% of Barnegat Bay being bulkheaded. And that's quite an issue when it comes to erosion and the feedback loop for sediment in the bay. We really need sediment to be whisked away in some areas and then deposited back in other areas in order to keep a balance within the ecosystem. But with almost half of the bay being bulkheaded, there's no space for the sediment to go. So that means that sediment is just settling out in the middle of the bay, which is often why we need dredging pretty often in Barnegat Bay. So bulkheading is a very, very large aspect of development and why we're losing some of our wetlands. An additional factor would be subsidence, which we have a lot of mosquito ditching. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the ditches or the amwam ponds, which are just ponds within the marsh to kind of combat the issue of mosquitoes in the area. And so that trapped water can reduce the vegetation, which results in a loss of wetland elevation. So we're not just experiencing that lateral loss from erosion, but we're also kind of sinking down as well. And then lastly, erosion, which is going to happen in any ecosystem, no matter what. That's due to wave energy, but right now we're getting increased wave energy from increasing storms and boat wake, where it whisks that sediment away, which can result in bank failure. And again, there's nowhere to then deposit that sediment on a new shoreline because of the bulkheading. So everything is kind of tied together in how we are losing the wetlands. And so to help us understand a lot of these different processes that are happening to wetland edges, we've established Paddle for the Edge, which is why I'm here today. And I'm hoping that you guys can join me this summer in our Paddle for the Edge program. So the gist of it is that it's a community science program where we use volunteers to collect data via their kayaks. So if you have a kayak, stand-up paddleboard, we've had some people go out in canoes as well. You can go out and use your smartphone to collect data on a variety of different parameters that we're looking at to kind of classify these edges in the bay. So we have volunteers collect the data, and then on our end, we'll perform these various analyses that'll provide insight to the different erosion trends. So volunteers kind of capture the state of the edge at that time, and then we can apply that to how it looks over time. And ideally, a lot of this data will be used by ourselves as well as our partners for identifying areas that are in need of restoration. So we can look at the level of erosion in a certain area and determine whether or not it's vulnerable to future erosion, if it's experienced a lot of historical erosion, and kind of prioritize areas that we think need to be restored and implement these projects. And so aside from the research that we use to implement projects, those can take years at a time to get those projects on the ground and actually make a difference to the ecosystem. So we think that education is a very, very important part of this program because it gives the community members the opportunity to learn about the local wetland habitats that are in their backyards, as well as the threats that they're experiencing. And then hopefully community members can act on a smaller scale to get those more immediate changes to the environment. And then by learning about the various habitats in their backyard, we're hoping that that kind of gives people a sense of responsibility to their local environments and kind of foster an interest in actually acting towards preventing these various effects of climate change. So the gist of how it works, there's 3 main steps to the Paddle for the Edge program. The first one being that volunteers will register from a link on our website. This is a very simple Google form, takes 2 minutes to fill out, and we will release that registration link probably in the month of May. Next up would be the training, which takes place in June, and I will talk in a moment about the various types of training that we provide. So we just want to make sure that everyone understands the survey parameters and what the expectations of the program are, as well as how to use the data collection app. I'm not the most tech savvy person. It can be a little bit difficult for me. So we just really break down step by step how to use the app to make sure that everybody can be on the same page and have it easy to use in the field. And then once that's complete, we will assign you a section of the shoreline, and then you go out and paddle and you can take the data. So these are the various training opportunities that we've had in the past, and training is one aspect of the program that kind of keeps changing. It started off with doing in-person training back in 2015 when it started. I think that's when they had the in-person training. And then that ended when COVID hit. So they moved to introducing this manual, and it was a virtual training just by providing the materials to volunteers, and volunteers can do it on their own time. Last year, we did introduce this webinar option, which was very, very helpful. It was a really good opportunity to have people kind of collaborate on the training process. And so we're going to take that a step further this year and go back to the in-person training. So I do just want to touch a little bit on each of these. The manual is important because it provides the definitions for these survey parameters. And so I don't know if you can tell in that graphic, these are all of the various survey parameters that we have. So it'll explain things like, you see the word tiers. It'll tell you exactly what tiers are. It'll provide photos so that you have an example of what a tiered edge would look like. And then last year, we also had a demonstration video where we had some of our amazing part-time technicians who are much more tech savvy than I am, put together a really awesome demonstration video where they walked through on the phone, scrolling through the different parameters and selecting the different answers so that you could visually see exactly how to use the app and what different features of the marsh you're looking for. We also require a knowledge check, which is just a little quiz to make sure that the volunteers are understanding the various survey parameters. And it's not a situation where, oh, I failed the quiz, I can't go out and paddle. You can take the quiz as many times as needed until you get a passing score. And we'll be in communication with you if the case where that you're not getting a passing score the first couple times, and we can definitely communicate what the errors are, what your concerns are, our concerns are, just to make sure that we are on the same page. So it's a very collaborative effort to make sure that everyone is actually able to go out and paddle and collect accurate data. We also required a test point just to make sure, again, that people are on the same page and they're understanding how to use the app, because it's very frustrating to get out on the water and have to kind of keep your kayak still at the point where you're trying to take data, as well as figure out what's going on your phone if you're having any kind of tech issues. So the test point allows volunteers to just get all of that out of the way ahead of time, get used to using the app so that it kind of becomes second nature by the time they get out on the water and they don't have to fiddle with it as much. And then again, the webinar last year was an opportunity to highlight a lot of the commonly missed questions, the different survey parameters that people were repeatedly getting incorrect. We were able to focus on those, hear from volunteers on what they thought a parameter meant, what they were looking for, and then we could kind of have a discussion about the expectations of the program. And that was a really awesome opportunity to get the past volunteers' perspective as someone who's new to the program. We've had volunteers from 2015. They've been doing this so much longer than I have. So it was really awesome to hear their perspective and how they interpret the data, and kind of learn from each other on how we can improve the accuracy of the data. And so this year, again, we are going to take that a step further and go back to the in-person training so that we have that open discussion opportunity for people to learn from each other, and also to put names with faces, because I think it's really important that we get to know each other and foster that collaborative approach to collecting this data. So once we have the data, this is what it looks like. So this is a complete survey of the bay. I'm not sure which year this is from, but we zoomed in on a little spot in Manahawkin so that you could see the individual points. Each star is one data collection point that has the answers to each survey question, as well as at least one photo attached to it. And then on our end, we will review all of that data to make sure that we agree with what the data that the volunteer took. And then we do an in-house analysis to determine an erosion score. So the erosion score looks at different parameters, such as the shape of the bank, whether it's undercut or perpendicular. Are there exposed roots sticking out of the side? Are there chunks in the water? And it looks at those various erosional factors and kind of pulls together a category if it is high erosion, low erosion. Is it kind of that static transitional stage, or is it actually experiencing accretion? And so this is an example from just upstream of the Parkertown docks, which are in Little Egg Harbor Township. And so you can see in this photo, there's actually a bit of a loss of vegetation. It's not covering like 100% of that bank. If we zoomed in, you'd probably see some exposed roots, and there were some chunks in the water in that area. So it did deem this photo as high erosion. And so that one was color coded as red because, you know, high erosion is bad. This is from 2018, and we are actually currently doing a deep dive into the literature to kind of revamp the erosion score code and make sure that we're really understanding what deems something as erosive. Because edge habitats are so dynamic, you could have something that's eroding one day, it could be accreting the next day. They change so quickly. And we want to make sure that we're capturing that and not calling something severely erosive when in reality, it's not that vulnerable to future erosion. We want to make sure that we're really prioritizing the areas that are in danger. So we're, again, diving into the literature to make sure that we have a better understanding of all of these factors and that we can convey the data with sound science. In fact, we're actually thinking about taking out the accretion score because we're realizing that there's not much that you can visually see for accretion. That's more something that happens over time, and you would measure that more. It would be more of a vertical change over time rather than a lateral change that you could see in an image. So we're just kind of revamping everything, taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture and making sure that we understand everything. So this is a pop out of Island Beach State Park that has all of the erosion scores on assigned to each point. And so this is a compilation of data from 2015 to 2017. We try to cover the entire bay within 3 years. Obviously, we're not going to cover the whole bay in 1 year. We don't have that many volunteers. So we try to prioritize it in 3 years to make sure that we get a full snapshot of the bay. And then we'll start again. We'll start repeating assignments from before. And so this is 2015 to 2017 erosion at Island Beach State Park. And so you can see that there's a lot of green on the northern end, then it goes to yellow, then a little bit more orange with a couple of red spots on the inland side to the south. And then in the next set of data from 2018 to 2020, some of the areas are not repeated. You'll see that it's a little farther north and a little farther west, but you'll notice that there is a lot more red and orange. And even in that green area, there's a couple extra red spots. So this is just indicating that this might be an area that we want to take a look at. The colors look a little bit different from one set of data to the next set of data. So it shows that we might want to investigate what's going on. What used to be a lot of green accretion now has a couple of red spots. So there's a couple of areas where it is now experiencing erosion where it wasn't before. That's something that we might want to investigate. And so just to see the difference between these side by side, again, they're not directly comparable because they're not exactly the same spots that are surveyed every year, but it gives us an overall big picture of what we might need to continue to investigate and look further into and identify, do we really need to implement restoration in this area or not? So some of the highlights from the program, again, we started in 2015. We've been doing this for 10 years, and we have over 11,000 data points, which as someone who recently started and has not been here since the beginning, this is just so mind-blowing to me that we've had over 400 volunteers participate in this project. And some of us have been there since the beginning. There are people who have been there so much longer than I have. And we really appreciate their hard work and their dedication to the program. They've paddled over 233 miles, which is not just in the Barnegat Bay. In 2023, we expanded into the Great Egg Harbor watershed, courtesy of the Great Egg Harbor Watershed Association. We had some of their staff recruit volunteers and get some extra assignments down in that area, as well as 7 Mile Island near the Wetlands Institute down in Stone Harbor. So it's really awesome that we're starting to partner with other organizations and bring our program to other areas of New Jersey. So we don't just have a snapshot of what Barnegat Bay looks like, but we have the entire state. And so people have contributed over 1,600 volunteer hours, which again, we could never do as such a small staff at BBP. So we really appreciate all the help of our volunteers who put their time into the training as well as the paddling, making sure that they're going out at the right time with the low tides to take the most accurate data. It's not an easy feat to get out on a kayak all the time and make sure that you're paying attention to the weather and the tides and such. So we really appreciate all of the hard work and dedication that people have put into getting this data for us. So being that we are now 10 years old, I thought this was a really good time to kind of take a step back and look at how this program could change for the future, using what we've learned from the past 10 years. And so one of the first things that I'd like to work on for this program is increasing engagement. As I said, training registration starts in May, training is in June, and then paddling is in July. But edges exist all year. I don't think that we need to just be focusing on edge habitats for 3 months out of the year. So I'd like to increase the engagement on social media, whatever other kind of campaigns and events, presentations such as this, that we can really get the word out all year long and kind of gauge the community's interaction for what they're interested in their local habitats. What are they interested in learning? What are they interested in protecting? And kind of working that into the program further. We're also using this time to target data gaps, both geographic data gaps where we are identifying areas of the bay that we have not paddled yet in the last 10 years and make sure that we're kind of filling in those gaps, as well as identifying data gaps in terms of the parameters that we're collecting. Are we looking at all aspects of an edge that contribute to erosion? Or we're looking at too many aspects of an edge and not all of them necessarily contribute to erosion? We want to make sure that we're taking the necessary data, no more, no less, so that we have exactly what we need and we're not wasting anybody's time with unnecessary data collection. And then we want to move on to identifying these restoration priorities. The point of this data is to be able to use ourselves as well as provide to our partners so that they can identify these areas. So we want to be able to develop a tool that really helps everybody with these things, which moves on to our public data portal. So this is going to be a website that houses the data as well as houses the training materials, registration links, and such that volunteers need. So it's kind of the one-stop shop for everything Paddle for the Edge. This website is currently in development. We're getting very close, hopefully, to release this spring. And so this will be a great spot for both volunteers to take a look and see where they've paddled in the past, as well as for our partners to be able to see the data, filter the data for their own needs, and then be able to prioritize these restoration areas. And so I do want to highlight one project that was not determined based on Paddle for the Edge data, but our data was used in developing the program. So the Nellie Bennett Marsh is just south of Nellie Bennett Elementary School in Point Pleasant. And that project is working on building up the marsh. And we have multiple years of Paddle for the Edge data in that area. So they've been taking a look at the photos and kind of seeing like, oh, if we were thinking about putting more sediment in this area, but it's eroding from this direction via the photos, maybe we need to rethink our process and our strategy for this restoration project. So they've been using those photos from our volunteers in that area for the last couple of years, which is really awesome that we can contribute that data towards a restoration project. And hopefully this data portal will allow us to do that even more and for partners to actually be able to identify the projects that are in need. I do just want to highlight while I'm here, I will move on to showing you a little bit of that website, but I do want to highlight some other projects that we have going on for community science, one being the Barnegat Bay Blitz. It's an annual watershed-wide cleanup that happens all over the watershed. I think we even moved a little bit outside of our watershed. Some of them are on the ground cleanups, and some of them, as in this photo, are kayak cleanups. So I will take you to the website and just show you where to find all of that information. Because if you're here, I'd like to assume that some of you have kayaks and are interested in various kayak projects. So this is a really interesting one to get the community involved in cleaning up the local watershed. And then we also have our Jersey Friendly Yards Stewardship Certification Program. So this program is designed to engage, we have a residence program, a schools program, and a municipalities program. And it works towards encouraging landscaping practices that reduce pollution and conserve the wildlife habitat using native plants. And I will show you the website for that as well. So before I switch over to the different screen, I do want to give people the opportunity to write down the email address for the Paddle for the Edge program. If you're interested in joining the mailing list, go ahead and just shoot us an email and I'll put you on the list to make sure that you get the registration link when that comes out in May. And then this QR code is for the Barnegat Bay Partnership.org website where I will take you to show you where to find the different resources on our different programs. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and switch on over to our website, which is, I just need to find it. This one, I believe. All right. Does everyone see our website right here?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So website is nice and easy, although it isn't being developed right now for some changes. You just scroll down a little bit, and then we have our Barnegat Bay Blitz community cleanup page right here, where you can click on learn more. And this takes us to the Blitz page. This is actually a photo from last year. Our staff, as well as a couple other organizations, did a cleanup at Caddis. Just gives you a little bit of an overview and some images, and then this is how you sign up. So there are tons of cleanups in the watershed. Luckily, it is all alphabetical. You just pick what town you're interested in, and then you click on the orange button to send an email to the captain that is in charge of that particular cleanup and just tell them that you were interested in joining. I would like to highlight the Lake Shenandoah County Park cleanup is usually by kayak. I know there's a lot of construction going on in the area, so that one's a little bit to be determined. But then also the Eagleswood cleanup is a kayak cleanup if anyone is interested. Again, just heading to our website, scrolling down a little bit, and you'll see that Blitz link right there.
Actually, while you're on that, Sammy,
Yes.
if you go down, you'll see the Long Beach Township, and
Oh,
over
do you guys have one?
there,
This one?
yep. And over the years, they've participated and been out on our marsh. And so part of that blitz has been on the marsh that I was showing at the beginning of the session. And in fact, back when Bob Martin was DEP commissioner, he actually showed up and went out on the marsh and schlod through the muck. Uh,
Yep.
so there are these activities right on LBI, and we've had a great relationship and support from Long Beach Township on our marshes as well as others. So it's a great activity to participate in. Just by the way.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. It's awesome that they're spread out over the whole watershed. So there's something local for absolutely everybody around here, which is really fantastic. And then if you go back, we also have a spot for our Jersey Friendly Yards program. Click Get Certified. This is the Jersey Friendly Yards website where you will find all the information you need in order to create your own Jersey Friendly yard. Some information. They have an interactive yard feature, which is really awesome. And I am a big advocate for this plant database. Anyone who is new to the program, new to gardening, this is your one-stop shop for all of the plants that you need in your yard. It tells you the various species, the amount of water that it needs, the type of soil that it needs, the amount of sunlight that it needs, so that you can plan out your own yard and make it really custom to your local environment.
And while you're on that,
Mhm.
I'm gonna amplify it. We've been talking about things that can be done on LBI, and one of the things we were talking about was this homegrown national park, where you take your own property and improve it with pollinators and with native plants. This is the guide.
Mhm.
I've looked through this many times. It's really a fantastic resource online, and for those who are thinking about participating in the homegrown national park or just want to do some work around their property, this is a
Mhm.
terrific resource. So it's good to be showing that to this group. Thanks.
Mhm. I do want to highlight this 8 steps to Jersey friendly yards. So it gives you all of the information that you need to get a Jersey friendly yard. It's 8 steps, but then I think it's broken down into even more items. I think the list used to be like 40 different
Mhm.
items that you would check off. And so they condensed it into 8, and then you can kind of pick what works for your property. And so if you complete all 8 steps, we do send out a little sign for your yard, like a metal sign that you can post saying this is a Jersey friendly yard. But aside from that, you're welcome to pick and choose whatever tasks work for your property. So it's very customizable to you. So that is our Jersey Friendly Yards program. And then just need to move down a little bit and see. Is this where I am? All right, so then back to Paddle for the Edge. So we don't have the published website available, but this is an example of a map that is going to be on our Paddle for the Edge data portal. So right now we have 2 years of data that are completely analyzed and ready to go. It's 2024 and 2023. And so when you're on the data portal, this is an example of a map that you'll see, and it's going to be interactive. So you can zoom in, and I do want to take you down. Where are we? Look at that. We do have some data at the foundation, which I think is fantastic. What an example for today. So you can see every individual data point, and then you just click on one and it'll bring up the data. I'm still working on trying to have it present the data in a different order. So don't mind that it's just in alphabetical order at the moment, but it has each of the survey parameters. You can see, are oysters present? Yes, there were oysters at this particular data point. And you can go through each survey parameter and see what's going on at that edge. And then at the very end, you get the photo. And so then you can see exactly what the edge looks like in that area. So there will eventually be filters. Sorry, I just can't access the front. There will be filters eventually on the side to be able to filter the data by year. Say, I just want to look at 2023 data, or I just want to look at areas where oysters were present, so that volunteers or end users, being our partners that are looking for specific areas to restore, can filter it for whatever type of needs they have, whatever areas they need. And again, I do want to highlight, we have a little bit outside of our watershed as well. So really, what is purple? I want to say that is 2023. Let's see. Yep, 2023. We had a lot of participation in the 7 Mile Island watershed, which was really awesome. And then a little bit of it repeated right around the Wetlands Institute. So we are expanding. This is the Great Egg Harbor Watershed Association's area. And they have actually already identified a restoration area right here. I want to say this is Tuckahoe Island. So they have a little bit of data that they took there that will be used in their marsh restoration project as well. So it's awesome that we're expanding to other parts of New Jersey. But we do still have some spaces in Barnegat Bay that we need to cover. Obviously, this is only 2 years, but I know that we have a lot of area in the Little Egg Harbor watershed that we still need to collect data as well. So I will definitely keep you all posted when this data portal is published. Again, it'll also house the registration link for the program and all of the training materials that you need. And then you guys will be able to kind of play around with the data for yourselves. Let me go back to my presentation and see if I had anything else. Can you guys see, are we back in my presentation?
Yep, we're back.
All right. So again, feel free to scan this QR code. It'll bring you to the Barnegat Bay Partnership website, where you'll find all the information on the Blitz, Jersey Friendly Yards. There is a page on Paddle for the Edge. And eventually, when we have that registration link, that will go on that page. Whenever we have the data portal link, that will also go on that page. So barnegatbaypartnership.org is your one-stop shop for everything. And with that, I would just like to say thank you so much for having me today. This is such an important experience for me to be able to share this project, share our goals, and really get to know the people who are involved and who are interested in being involved. I think that collaboration and open communication is really important for this project. And I'm very interested in any questions that you guys may have or any comments on if you think this would be a great or a not so great program, anything that you're looking for out of community science in regards to the Barnegat Bay Partnership and this shoreline assessment. I'm very interested in hearing what you guys have to say. And thank you so much for having me today.
Well, this is great. And we do have, we got about 10, 15 minutes, so we do have some questions. I'll just make a couple of observations while people are maybe collecting their thoughts. I see we have a question or two in the chat thing. Uh, just, that was just excellent. Thank you so much. I think people really have a taste of the things that they can participate in and how the information that they can provide is and has been used and will be used. So I think that's great. Our marsh, a couple of things. We had a presentation, it's been a couple of years ago, about our mosquito ditches, and the Mosquito Control Commission came out and actually rearranged our ditches, because ditches that run straight contribute a great deal more to erosion. So they came in and made them more serpentine. And they do work because the fish do eat the mosquito larvae, which is a great way to, to rectify or to try and rectify the mosquito thing. So definitely all about the marsh. The other takeaway when you were talking about the impact of marshes to protect property, and firsthand knowledge from Sandy, because of our marsh, our property had no damage. Interesting fact that I was told was just 15 feet of marsh knocks off 50% of the wave energy
Mm.
that so there was flooding. The marsh was 2 feet underwater, well, 4 feet underwater, and we have some pictures of that. But there's a living example of how that marsh protected all of the homes on around the foundation. So that's true. Mordecai Island, Reclaim the Bay has worked for 15 years with the people on Mordecai Island, stabilizing and doing all kinds of things. We have had presentations from Reclaim the Bay and from Mordecai Island on that particular topic, and they're finally going to be able to do some more, I'll say, progressive, not necessarily aggressive, but progressive shoreline restoration to get back to where that 1977 shoreline was down there. So just a little update. And so much of what you talked about has to do with what Angela Anderson was talking about, which was when she was referring to the Bay Island restoration projects. And so a lot of this knowledge and observation that can be used in projects today is data that were gathered years ago. And so it was really great that you were, pulling in those ideas. So let's see if we have some questions. Darlene, have you been monitoring?
Yeah, and I agree, Sammy. That was a great presentation. And
you.
also, in case anybody's wondering with the terminology, community science, citizen science, participatory research, kind of all gets at the same thing there. Somebody's interested in where they might be able to see otters in the marsh. That was one question. And then there's another one about when the live demonstration will be.
Otters, that's quite an interesting one. So we don't take any data other than mussels and oysters on actual critters in the bay, but we do encourage any kind of comments. If it were up to me, every single data point would include a comment of something interesting that you see at the data point, but I know that takes a lot of time. So certainly if anybody saw otters, I would hope that they would put that in the comments, and I can certainly filter through the comments to see that type of thing. But that is something to note. Maybe I do make a section for any other wildlife that people see. So that would be a little bit easier to filter and put up on that portal. And so I think the portal should be published by the end of the month. I am not going to put a hard date on it though. Where do we stand right now? We have 2 years that are completely analyzed. And so we are going to publish the portal before we get all of the data ready. And then we'll just be adding data as we go through it. But we did just have a technician finish with all of the aesthetics of the portal. So right now it's just kind of double checking that and getting the data analyzed correctly so that you can see it and actually play with it. So keep an eye out for it at the end of the month.
As for the otters, it's been a few years, but there were some otters on Cedar Bonnet Island. That's
Oh, okay.
the islands that you come onto Long Beach Island. And there were some oysters down in there too, and we realized that the otters were having an oyster feast. And so that's where we have seen otters in the LBI area.
Mhm.
And if I were looking for otters, where I would look is over sort of south of Beach Haven West, headed down towards Tuckerton. All along that edge there, there are a couple of West Creek, and there are other creeks that feed that, and that's what the otters seem to like. So that's where I'd be looking.
Great. Live training. When are the live trainings, or is the live training? And then do you need to have your own kayak, or are they provided?
So the live training will be sometime in June. I'm thinking we're going to have 2 different ones because I understand that a lot of people obviously work during the day, during the week, the same time that I work. So we'd like to have one during the week and then another one on the weekend. So there will be at least 2 trainings to be determined. That all that information will go out with the registration link and such. And I'm sorry, what was the second part?
And also, can you confirm where the trainings are?
Actually, at the moment, I cannot. The
Okay.
idea right now is at Ocean County College, but we're still investigating what the kind of most central locations would be.
Got it. So it's the best thing for people to check your website, sign
Mhm.
up when you have the call for signups, and then they'll get all this information.
Yes, absolutely. And
Awesome.
let me go back. Certainly email this email address if you have any concerns or questions. If you are interested in a live training but you can only travel so far, let us know. As I'm planning it, I am very happy to take any requests into consideration.
Okay.
I
And
haven't
then
been doing this super long, so kind of understanding where people are coming from is really helpful in planning where I should put the live
yes,
trainings.
yeah, that's great. And I think this next question, I had this question last year because I've participated. And last year I wasn't able to access a kayak. So this question, and so I didn't participate. This year I do have a kayak. I'm pretty sure you don't provide the kayaks. Is that right?
We do not. I guess you could say the expectation is that people have their own kayaks or their own ability to get the kayaks. However,
Mhm.
we really don't want to turn anybody away. The BBP does have 4 of our own kayaks. So we would rather, if you don't have a kayak, certainly reach out to us and we will do our best to try and schedule a day when someone can meet you somewhere to deliver the kayak.
Mhm.
Because we have no hesitation in loaning out our kayaks at no cost, but it's just a matter of July is very filled for our
Yep.
field season, so it's just making sure that we have somebody available to
Yeah.
provide
And
that
if
for you.
somebody's interested in doing this in the Barnegat Light area or wants to come up and monitor the Barnegat Light area, you're more than welcome to borrow my kayak too.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Do you have
And
a
also
voice?
we're
Go ahead.
happy to help you find kayaks in other areas, like people outside of the watershed where it's just not feasible for us to deliver kayaks.
Mhm.
Let us know what you're looking for, and we can certainly call around and try to find the best kayak rentals for you.
That's great too. This one from Janet. Do you have a voice at local township meetings to speak up for saving the bay from development and further destruction?
Yeah, so not me personally, but other people on our staff go to many different municipalities. I don't know if you're thinking of a specific township or a specific type of meeting. But yeah, our director, Stan Hales, is very present in the whole Ocean County community in attending various meetings and kind of advocating for the work that we do.
Yeah, and I'll since I've monitored this for such a long time, what it isn't so much that the Barnegat Bay Partnership goes out to a meeting to present something, but what they will do is if there are citizens who are interested and want to raise a question at a town meeting, they can provide either information to support the citizen, or in some cases, depending on the topic and one thing or another, Stan or one of the other staff can actually attend them. So it's not that the partnership is an advocacy group that goes out to a meeting, but they can attend meetings. And the best way to facilitate that is for an individual who is trying to get information out or to find information from the township or borough on Long Beach Island. You know, we've got 5 municipalities. So if anyone on this call is interested in doing that, I think that you can find support and information from the partnership. You definitely can.
Yeah, absolutely. We have so many resources on our website. And as I mentioned, we're kind of redeveloping the website so that it's much easier to find what you're looking for. But worst case scenario, all of our contact information is on there for our all of our full-time staff. So if you have a certain topic in mind that you're looking for more information or resources, take a look at our contact information and see which staff member might be the most appropriate, and just shoot us an email. And if it was the wrong staff member, we're all so close, we will certainly forward your questions and concerns onto whoever it's most applicable to. Like, I get emails all the time for wetlands and watershed stuff because that's my title, and I'll just forward that on to Kaylee Pestalozzi, who's a lot more knowledgeable than I am on a lot of this community work. So we'll make sure that we can put you in touch with the right person for sure.
That's all great. Well, just one final comment. I saw somebody said there are some otters up there, High Bar Harbor area. So
Okay.
yep, that's another good one.
I'm noting all of this down. We're gonna have people paddle in those areas for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so it is precisely noon, just the right time to end. Again, Sammie, it was a wonderful presentation. And the way that I give grades is we had as many people on at the end as we had on the beginning. So that's
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, you get an A. Nobody left. So that's a great thing. And
Thank you
so
so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sammie. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.